Hi, I'm Heather with First Pioneers Federal Credit Union, and welcome to the Money Tips No One Told You podcast. Here at First Pioneers, we love helping you understand your finances better and giving you the tools you need to be financially successful. Here, we're going to talk about financial terminology, how different accounts work. We're going to share tips that make your financial life easier, and so much more. Are you ready to dive in? At the time of this recording, it's April, which is the month that credit unions celebrate youth. So with that in mind, I thought it would be nice to talk about a topic that I find teens tend to ask a lot, especially older teens or even into the young adult age. You know, at this point, they're really just getting started in their independence, in their finances. And, some have more knowledge than others. And often they turn to each other to discuss what to do. Of course, I have a son. I've talked about that before. I've tried to teach him some basics, but as it starts getting more in depth, sometimes it's hard to know what to discuss and what he really wants to know. So I've decided I just start asking him and let him ask me questions, and then I try to answer those questions. I also say, are there things that your friends have questions about that maybe we can help give them some knowledge on? And one of the biggest topics seems to always be credit. They're getting to that age where they want to buy a car, or maybe they're getting ready to move out on their own. Some of them are even starting to think about, down the road where they're eventually wanting to buy a home. And they just feel really overwhelmed about how all this really works. So today I wanted to talk about a fairly basic credit topic, and that is what types of credit that there are, because there's actually more than one. A lot of people don't even realize that, and they all have a different purpose. Now, of course, most types entail buying on credit, which means you're making a purchase with borrowed money with a promise to pay it back. But sometimes it's about showing you have credit, that you have a good score, so that people know you're a good risk. And we'll get to that in just a second. So let's start with the first type, which is an installment loan. These are loans for a fixed amount. Think things like cars or homes. Because let's be honest, a big purchase like that will almost always require credit. Sometimes cash is used for things like that, but it's just not as common. And most likely this loan will also have a set interest rate, but some interest rates will be what's called variable, but most of the time they are fixed. One thing to keep in mind about interest rates, though, is that they do change over time, and they're determined by many, many factors. But the point is, the rate that's available today may be different in 6 months, and it's definitely different than it was 6 months ago. So when you get ready to buy, it's best to look around and see what rates are available. Then also keep in mind that beyond what the lender has set the rate as, things like your credit score will play a big role in what rate you actually get on the loan. Now, of course, interest on a loan is basically the cost of borrowing. So you'll pay what you owe plus the interest. This loan is also for a predetermined length or term. Often when you hear the word term at a bank or a credit union, it's most likely the length of whatever it is you're discussing, like a loan or a CD. You may choose a term up to 6 years on a car. A home is usually 15, 20, or 30 years in length for a pretty typical mortgage. So once all of this has been determined, you will pay the installment or the payment for the time that was agreed upon and the amount that was agreed upon. So once you've completed these payments, your loan is paid off. The second type of credit is revolving credit, and this is for things like credit cards. Now, payments on this type of credit will vary depending on the balance that you owe. So there's no set length of time for your payments. You just continue to pay until that balance is paid off. Something to keep in mind is you will most likely have a limit as to how much you can borrow on this line of credit. For instance, you may have a $5,000 limit on a credit card, but that doesn't mean you have to use all the credit at one time. Maybe the thing you want to purchase is $1,000, so you just use the $1,000 and then pay off that balance. And of course, we recommend that it's best to use what you need and then get that balance paid off. Keep in mind, credit cards can be issued from various financial institutions. For instance, First Pioneers offers a credit card. There's also Chase, Capital One, American Express, Discover. But there's also credit from retailers like Lowe's, Best Buy, Dillard's, and places like that. It seems like these days almost every big box retailer out there offers some form of credit card. Now, of course, one thing to keep in mind about these credit cards is they often have a variable interest rate, which means it changes as interest rates in the market change. So just like an installment loan, the interest is the cost of borrowing. So the higher the rate, the more that purchase is going to cost you in the long run. So keep that in mind when you're carrying large balances on a credit card. It can end up costing you pretty large interest payments. Now, there may be occasions where credit card companies will offer a special rate that you want to take advantage of. Just keep in mind it's always a good idea to read the fine print. Often with those specials, the interest rate will change or there's some sort of rule that applies to what the special is. So be sure that you read and understand what agreement you're signing before you sign it. Also, be aware of the danger of credit card debt. It's easy to just sort of put that card down and keep spending, but that debt can grow and it can get out of hand fairly quickly, and it makes it difficult to get out from under that debt. The third type of credit is service credit, and that's the one I find a lot of people weren't really aware of. And this is for things like an apartment lease or a cell phone contract, or even utilities for your home or your apartment. Now, some of these agreements will have terms or a length, especially like a lease or a contract. Others, like utilities, will probably just last as long as they're needed for the residents. So where some of these can get difficult is if you don't have established credit, or maybe your credit score is a little low or something like that. You may have some difficulty getting one of these loans or even signing one of these service contracts. So maybe consider something like a co-signer that maybe could help you out with that contract as you get back on your feet. Okay, my bonus for today. A lot of people don't realize that just a good old-fashioned cash loan is really a type of credit. Now, of course, that tends to be more of a personal transaction between friends or family versus a business. So those terms are up to the people involved. What I would say is I'd be a little careful with those types of loans. Unfortunately, I think we've all seen money come between people in relationships. So I would handle those with care to avoid any hurtful behavior as you move forward. And as always, we're here at First Pioneers if you need us. If you have questions about loans or credit or really any of your financial needs, feel free to reach out and we will be happy to help answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for listening today. We hope you found this information helpful, and we'd love it if you'd give us a rating. And don't forget to favorite or subscribe to the show. There are several ways you can find us if you need further information or you need to speak with a financial counselor. You can visit us in person in Lafayette or New Iberia, Louisiana, or you can find us at firstpioneers.com. There you can find out how to become a member of our family and find out other financial information. Be sure and check out the show notes for important links and other information. And as always, we're here to help in any way that we can. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.